Welcome back to the Rainbow Six North American League. Your host, Doa here, along with Caliber, Jacob, Jesse, J, Chick, and Seth, Super, Hoffman. I haven't said your full name yet. I thought I might as well do that at
You're
least.
changing up on me. I didn't know who that was for a second.
There you go. That's you. We only use our
Super.
game IDs usually, but
Okay.
you are Super, and you're...
You don't have a first name to me. You're just Doa.
That's right. I don't. That is my first name at this point. Not legally yet. But we got one more match for us here on the Rainbow Six North American League day. It is Oxygen versus Mirage. Now, this one's a little bit spicy because Oxygen coming into this one with 2 losses, one in overtime, one in regulation. Mirage coming into it 1-1, a regulation win, a regulation loss. If it was stage 1 or stage 2, it'd be like Oxygen easy, but things are different now.
Yeah, there have been some struggles from OXG, a team that has seemingly consistently been at the top of the NAL for multiple years now, in the top 4, always expected to make those international events, now struggling, losing their first 2 games after making a roster move that has been somewhat controversial. Obviously, Sweater, they picked him up. He's a great player, but losing Laxing after him being on the team for so long clearly has had some sort of an effect on this team. So currently sitting in 9th, they play Mirage, who almost have a different story, right? Historically, they've been a very weak roster, but they have kind of popped off the last game, so there is some potential for a different story today.
Yeah, I feel like this is very much a case of, is OXG actually tanking right now, as opposed to how good Mirage is going to be able to do with the 2 new pickups, which I don't want that to be a discredit to the effort that Mohesi and Dexter have already put into kind of trying to get this team out of the gutter everyone knew that they were in. But I look at OXG's 2 losses as far more of a concern than is Mirage actually managing to bounce back and do anything significant. Because that first loss to Parabellum, I don't want to say I can excuse, because it was Parabellum's border and that's just a phenomenal way to play. I don't think I can do that, but I definitely don't think I can excuse like the way that they were playing on Cafe, because they basically should have won that game and they didn't.
Yeah, I think it's honestly kind of an interesting time, because it feels like for the first time, maybe since Hot and Cold was on Mirage, that you're like looking at a Mirage game and you're not just immediately like OXG win. Like
Right.
you actually have to think about it a little bit. And at least that says that Mirage are improving. They have a roster that is, good enough to be in the league.
Yeah.
Now, how far in the league they can go, we'll see. And I think today's a really interesting match for OXG. It's honestly very similar to Astralis earlier. It's a situation where they can't afford to lose this game. If they want to make top 4, you need points on the board. Having 1 point, 4 points after 4 games, potentially at the end of the week, that's not going to be enough.
It's funny that we see Oxygen in this similar situation that Astralis is kind of in too, right? Where it's a top team from the earlier stages, and here they are needing a win right away, having such a slow start. Let's talk about them a little bit more, though. The big story, obviously, coming into stage 3 is that Oxygen added in Sweater. Now, that was kind of a controversial decision. A lot of it was said to be because they wanted someone that was more of a team player, right? Laxing kind of always off doing his own thing a little bit, effective, but not really what they were looking for. Now they've got Sweater, but things have been kind of struggling. I mean, I kind of wondering if there's a little bit of a Laxing regret, a little bit of pining for Laxing, as it were. As far as when he's off doing his thing, that freed a lot of them to do their thing. Now that they don't have that anymore, it's a change in dynamic. It's a large change in dynamic, and it feels like it's been harder to adjust for this team than I think they thought it would be.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps, yeah. I think that you take a look at Oxygen, and they have tried to fit Sweater into Laxing's roles in a lot of cases. He is playing a lot of that flank watch. His job is to kind of shut down the roamers, make sure that no flanks come in. I think he's done an all right job of that. I think specifically in that second game where they played against SSG, he did a much better job as well. He has been fragging, okay? He's been getting his kills. He definitely was picked up as a big gunner who was previously on Beast Coast. He has been doing that again, and obviously you can see he's, with the stats there from Aim Lab, he's very, very mechanically talented, but I do think as a team cohesion type thing, I think that they're still kind of warming up to it.
Only 67 though, I'm a little bit worried. Super, what's your Aim Lab ranking?
When I did the DZ Pro-Am a while ago, I had a 93, so I'm better than all these people. The only one I've even seen close to me is I saw NJR had a 92. So.
Pretty solid, yeah. All right, gotta get you back in there.
I mean,
tell them to find a new GM, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I do agree with the idea that Sweater is there mechanically. I think there are some things about Dark Zero takes that are a little bit different because it's not laxing in the same role. Yes, they're trying to plug him into basically the same operator roles, but I think specifically, like, if I remember right, on Border, usually it would be laxing trying to take something solo. Sometimes Sweater has help from somebody else, and there's a little bit more of a coordinated effort to push maybe from like an East tier side on Border. That isn't a thing that they were doing before, because usually they would just rely on laxing to kind of be the guy to take responsibility of that push basically by himself. I still think it'll take a little bit more time to incorporate or figure out exactly how they want to utilize a man of Sweater's talents. I think we can see through 2 straight losses that it's maybe still not working out to the best of his ability, but mechanically the guy is still everything that he was billed as, to be fair.
Obviously, like, every team kind of goes at their own pace, right? Some teams are faster getting players comfortable, some aren't. In Sweater's case, he's replacing a player who has been on this team since, you know, humans walked the earth.
Dawn of time.
Yep. And that's going to take some time. The thing that I find weird is, you know, they brought in Sweater, who was thought of as one of the better entry players. He's a very aggressive player. He lights up the scoreboard, and they just plug him into Laxing's roles. I always thought, you know, Laxing is one of the only people who can play like Laxing. You know, there's only one. So why bring in a player like Sweater to then have him play like Laxing? If you want somebody to play like Laxing, you keep Laxing. I feel like they maybe just need to free Sweater up a little bit to play like Sweater.
And I feel like the other thing is we keep on talking so much about Sweater and like about Vert because we're still a little confused about where those guys are meant to fit into everything. But we're not talking about the rest of the guys on OXG, mostly because they're kind of like continuing to do what we expect them to do. Newers is actually doing really good in that primary entry position now these days. He's gotten into a lot of those engagements where Sweater is not doing that. Dream is still probably one of the most solid, if not the most solid support player so far in the league at a 73% cost. And Foxay is doing Foxay things even if we thought that he was going to be the one to initially play sledge roles instead of vertical. It feels like everything else on OXG has a lot of things that can be talked about, but we keep on focusing on this because this is still the massive piece that needs to make the puzzle make sense, and it still hasn't clicked yet.
The roster moves are making the biggest difference for sure. And speaking of roster moves, let's talk about Mirage. Let's talk about the team on the other side of the arena. They made 2 roster moves here, bringing in Dex, Mohesi this time, and they are certainly looking like a better team. A lot of players I talked to in Vegas a couple weeks ago, they were saying Mirage is the team that improved the most between stages. It was a low bar, to be fair. Anything would be good, but legit, like, they have a chance, I feel like, after some of the performance we saw last week, to maybe sneak into a top 4, maybe.
Yeah, I think that with Mohesi and Dexter coming in, they definitely have improved. You know, Dexter maybe steals the show sometimes, but I got a chance to sit down and talk with Mohesi a little bit, and it's really impressive how much control he's just taken over for this Mirage roster. You know, he's making a good chunk of their strats these days. He's obviously doing a lot of the IGLing, and they have, you know, a bit of a mixed structure for sure. No team has got one dedicated only hard breach IGL these days, but he's still doing a lot of that from behind the scenes. So I really have been impressed with a rookie coming into a team like this and being able to take so much charge. I think that's really impressive. When I asked him about it, he gave a lot of credit to players that he was with back in Challenger League. He credited that Wichita Wolves roster from last year with a lot of his ability to call. He mentioned both Call Out and Forceful by name as players that really helped him develop. So I think it's very impressive for a guy like Mohesi to come into a team like this, a tier 1 roster after only playing Challenger League, and seemingly be able to give them a lot of success as they're already 1-1 this stage.
Yeah, they got a dub against Astralis last week. Nobody was really expecting them to get. They did that by playing the timeout game amazingly, by the way. They were up 0-2. It forces Mirage to use theirs. It becomes a 2-2 game, and then Mirage take it again because they want to ensure that 4-2 defensive half on Theme Park. They get it, and then all of a sudden they come out shooting. Those strats you were talking about that Mohesi's been drawing up meant that Benji was put into the spotlight more often than not, and the guy earned his paycheck in that Astralis game. He was rated fantastically. There were a couple of times he had clutch opportunities, and he made a massive one on Hot and Cold in Office that felt like it helped seal the deal on this Mirage team actually having the cohesion that we were looking for. It answered some questions, not a lot, gave a lot of people hope, and I think that there is now even more reason to pause and consider, are OXG just the clear-cut favorites, or is this team actually being able to pick up some proper steam?
Yeah, kind of like I said earlier, I was just going to, when you play Mirage now, you at least have to worry a little bit about them. In the past, it's kind of been like, when you play Mirage, you're worried about not being the team that they beat. Now you're actually worrying about, okay, we have to take these guys seriously. And, I certainly don't think they're going to be challenging for a top 4 spot, but they're challenging to be taken seriously. And that's, for them, honestly, an improvement.
Absolutely. Well, we're finding out what map we're going to now. The bans are in. So let's see where the map is going to be played.
So again, we've seen Mirage go to Theme Park back to back, but I think the thing about this that's interesting is that their ban phases are usually centered around a couple of maps for the past couple of stages. For the last 2 games, it's been completely different phases for both of those matchups. They haven't banned the same map twice, and they've gone to the same map twice overall. So I think it's more up to the way that OXG like to ban if Mirage's bans continue to be this fluent. I feel like a Mirage on Clubhouse might be a mistake. Chalet is one that can definitely bounce back and forth. And I feel like if we end up seeing, yep, that's what I was looking for. If it's a cafe ban, that also means that Mirage wants to play a map that they're a little bit more confident in rather than a map like Cafe, which again, even though OXG took SSG to the limit on that map, there still probably isn't enough tape that they're confident they can really use in this game.
Villa, Bank, Theme, our final 3 maps. I really don't want to see a theme park here. We saw Parabellum go back to back to back on the same map with Border. They ended up losing it 3rd time after teams had a couple of opportunities to counter-strat them. And also, you take a look at Theme for Oxygen. It's just a monster of a map. No team in the NAL has dominated any map like Oxygen has dominated Theme Park. Made a roster move, but still feels like it'll be good.
Uh-oh.
They banned the Bank. So for OXG on Theme Park, they have a 6-game win streak. They're undefeated. They beat TSM, Direwolves again, Parabellum, Beast Coast, and Astralis. The last 3 all coming throughout Stage 2. Maybe not like the top teams of the entire world, but Mirage isn't the top team in the entire world, okay? And I really do think that OXG feels so comfortable on this map. Yeah, they've got footage of Mirage on it as well. I have to think Mirage might have lost this ban phase.
Yeah, this kind of tells me a little bit about Mirage, that maybe their map pool right now is a little limited just because they do have new players, and I know that they kind of made changes very close to the roster lock, so they haven't had a lot of time together. Because like, you know, kind of some of the games earlier, they know the reputation that Oxygen has on Theme Park. Like you said, they're undefeated in the NAL. And you've already shown this map twice now, you're 1-1 on it. I wanted to believe in Mirage going into this game. This map choice makes it hard for me.
Yeah, well, we kind of have a preview of Super's prediction here as we go into that, but we have to check with our casters as well and see what they choose. Now, is the map as much of a difference maker in your choice, Blue, Stokes? What do you think?
Absolutely. I have to side with Super on this one. Going back to Theme Park 3 times in a row, you're just asking for things to go wrong. Pretty bold choice, and definitely a tale of what's going on with their map pool at the current moment. But I will say this, we kind of lock in before. We don't really get those opportunities to pick based off the map. So I'm still going to go Mirage. I feel like they've had some very, very good games under their belt. And at a minimum, they should at least feel comfortable as Theme Park has been that map. They've been going to back, every single time that they've been able to get an opportunity. So seems like the choice for them, and I'm going to rock with Mirage.
Wow.
I'm going to head the other direction on this one. I feel like things have got to come together for Oxygen. They've had 2 weeks now of actual live games to really find, a good position to try and put Sweater in more specifically than anyone. So I feel like this is the week where it's finally going to come together, and I feel like they should be able to take down Mirage, especially considering it's going to be a 3rd repeat for Mirage of the same map. Should have plenty of tape to be able to hard counter them out here.
I think so. All right, well, valid points on both sides. We got the casting desk split. We'll see who's right in a moment, but for now, we'll take our lead from Blue and Stokes. See you guys in a second when the map begins. Our analysts. What do you think? I'm going to start with you, Jacob. I don't think I've started with you all day.
I think you're actually right now that I think about it. I think the biggest overarching problem is we saw Parabellum try 3 maps straight, still ended up losing it on the 3rd try, and I do think that Mirage, as good as they have been and how confident they now are in their understandings of the positions they want to hold, how they want to fall back, how aggressive they want to play, it is going to be a bit of a different challenge to face an OXG team that doesn't play nearly as quickly as Astralis did, and I honestly think that might come back to bite them in this one. It's a very slight playstyle difference, but if OXG actually figure the Sweater formula out in this one, and I trust they've had 5 days since their last game to do that, I think they should have this one in the bag.
Makes sense. Oxygen for Jacob. What do you think? Super? Well, we'll have you go.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of, to me, kind of like the Astralis game earlier. This is a typically very good team coming into this 2nd week following an 0-2 week. It's actually the first time since NAL has been on LAN that OXG did not have a win in any form the first week.
Yeah.
Wow.
If they lose this game, like I said earlier, very hard to make the major. You pretty much have to kind of go flawless the rest of the season in a way. I'm going to believe in OXG here. It's a map. It's probably their most preferred possible map in this situation. I got to go with OXG.
All right, Oxygen for Super. I mean, Astralis got it done in a similar situation earlier. Jesse, do you think Oxygen can do it too?
Yeah, I think we've talked kind of criminally little about Dexter so far in this segment. If they can shut him down, I think Oxygen have a really good chance in this matchup. Dexter was the big problem for Astralis on this map last week. If OXG can make some way to make him not as much of a threat, then they're very good at this map. Theme Park is their bread and butter. I've got so much confidence that they'll be able to take this one down as long as Dexter doesn't provide that problem. So I'll go with OXG as well. I feel like this is a map that they very much like.
There we go. So everybody right now, Oxygen except for Stokes. Let's see what the coin has to say. It's going to be heads. Oxygen, it's going to be tails. Mirage?
The coin likes Mirage.
Does.
The coin does like Mirage. Jacob is right. It is
No
tails.
way.
The coin has, I don't know what it is. The coin has always loved Mirage.
That's a coin that likes losing.
It certainly does. Like,
Are you sure it's not Canadian?
But last week it was 1-1. Who knows? Who knows? But no, this is a U.S. silver dollar, not a Canadian one. That's a good question though. With the picking Mirage.
Sometimes I swear you slip that in there.
It also likes Parabellum. I don't know. I don't know what to say. But there you go. So one more for Mirage. Let's see what the fan vote is. I'd have to imagine it's Oxygen. It is indeed Oxygen. So the majority of predictions go in the OXG direction, but you know, time will tell. We have to see how the rounds play out. For now though, we have to take a look at our community poll. And the question to think about this time around is who will be more lethal on the server, Sweater or Benji Mula?
Did you ever think that you would read that sentence?
I
never
did
thought
not
I'd see
expect
this
it when I
ever.
woke up.
This is one of the craziest. This is maybe one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And the
he's
thing
had-
is, I feel like I want to vote Benji Mula.
That's the thing.
want
It's like
to.
this stage, Benji's had some pretty good numbers. No joke. Yeah, and Sweater's struggling a little bit, so we'll see. But I don't know. We'll see what the fan vote is going to end up being. Something to kind of mull over a little bit. That'll be interesting. But for now, quick break, and when we return, the final map of the day begins. Oxygen versus Mirage. We'll see who takes it after the short break. Don't go anywhere.
Spaceship.
Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for our final matchup of the day. We're getting ourselves ready to jump in to see if Oxygen can finally hit the ground running here. The problem is their opponent has also already found that ground, has been running for the past week, of course. Mirage will be their opponent on the other side of it, and we're going to make a third return for Mirage's sake, that is to Theme Park, to try and fight it all out. Stokes, what's this matchup going to look like as we get ready to jump into it?
Oh man, I'm just so excited to get into it in the first place because we're going back to Theme Park. This is going to be the third time in a row that we've seen Mirage here just alone in this stage, and also Oxygen being the best Theme Park team that we have in the NAL, period. The most dominant on this map. So Mirage, they've got to have some confidence allowing this through the map pool, knowing that Oxygen's more than likely looking for that angle, and that's what we're going to find ourselves here on Theme Park, and a lot to come to light for both of these teams. Oxygen with an 0-2 start for the very first time since the induction of the NAL, whereas Mirage looking as solid as they've ever been.
I tend to agree with the point that Super brought up as well when adding Sweater to this lineup, kind of slotting him into Lacting's previous roles does not seem to have been necessarily the right path towards success in the first 2 weeks. That's what I'm most curious about for OXG's sake heading into this game. Are we going to see any of that changed up? Are we going to see him pulled back into a more traditional role morph, or are we going to see something else potentially shift?
I think the big thing that he said there was this. They are putting Sweater into Laxing's position and having him try and play like Laxing, but there's only one Laxing in the world that can do exactly what Laxing does. So the fact that they're trying to, take a triangle and shove it inside of a circle hole and, just try and force it to fit, it doesn't really seem like the best way to go forward for Oxygen, but they could have made some sweeping changes over this last week. It's hard to say, obviously, since we haven't seen them since they lost to Space Station on Cafe.
Of course, over on the other side for Mirage, they've been having quite a bit of success so far this stage, of course, but as Super once again mentioned, it's all been limited here to this map on Theme Park so far here. So going to see, once again, if the third time will treat them, or if potentially they've overexposed themselves. Now, have they overplayed their hand, given away potentially too much in these first two matches that has now allowed Oxygen to have a pretty much full read onto them when we get into the game itself that will allow them to just counter out all of their strategies, leaving Mirage with not a whole lot to play into. Now, of course, a lot of that can be shaken up in the midst of the rounds. It is going to be Theme Park, of course. A lot of it, especially for the defensive side, falls to how successful your kind of early game aggression is going to be played out, but we'll get those answers pretty soon once we get into the game. Just working on getting our players in, folks. We had a small tech issue here preventing us from starting, so your patience is appreciated. I know I don't have a clue what Norris and his teammate are doing right there, but they're having a good time while they wait for this to get set up.
I think there's like a ball or something over by
Vertical.
Yeah,
I think
Vertical's
it's a water
pick it up.
bottle.
Oh yeah, it is a water bottle
It's like
here.
crushed water bottles.
Oh, they're hand warmers. I mean, that's
Okay.
one way to keep yourself warm, right? F1 drivers do the little tennis ball thing. They're just tossing hand warmers back and forth. Good hand-eye coordination test there.
Vertical's going the distance. But anyway, yeah, we're just getting these players warmed up, quite literally, apparently, with the hand warmers.
Hey, man, you keep playing like that, we'll put you in for the Bears, okay?
and then we'll get all these players teed up and ready to go. I've already had 4 other great matches today, so this will be the last one for today, folks. If you're wondering if we had another matchup prepped for this one, or not prepped after this one, I should say, or not, unfortunately, it's going to be a no, but of course, keep in mind that our Playday for tomorrow is still alive and well, so make sure you join us bright and early at 11 a.m. Pacific time, I believe, is when the first matchup is actually going to be starting. We will be live a few minutes before that, and of course, we'll have 5 more best of ones to play out tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. And fortunately enough, we still have quite a bit to talk about when it comes to the Mirage camp and their success story through this first week. Obviously, the last matchup that we saw from Mirage was up against Astralis. And not only that, but they ended up winning in 7-4 fashion on, you guessed it, Theme Park. And they actually ended up winning favor on both sides. Ended up winning 4 defensive rounds and 3 offensive rounds, eclipsing Astralis on both ends of the field. So looking at least solid coming in here, but obviously it's a lot to say up against Oxygen. We're going to have to see how they can work Theme Park now that it is Sweater in that hot seat where Laxing once was, worrying about those flanks and everything else in between. We made a note last week when it was actually me and Jacob casting Oxygen versus Space Station that OXG sometimes had vertical and Newers kind of off of doing their own thing, and there was really no bridge in between that to try and assist them in the frag department if things did go wrong. So with that in mind, we could see a pretty healthy clear coming through from Oxygen on the offensive end, but again, this is all just going to be up in the air until we can actually get into the map.
Yeah, it has very much been a bit of a weird start to the season or the stage so far for the players on Oxygen, obviously having to be the first to really recognize the increased prowess we've been getting out of teams like Parabellum, of course, in their first 2 Playdays. So got that massive surprise kind of thrown at them and just didn't really know how to handle it at the end of the day on Border. Things got a little bit better when they played against Space Station, of course, able to take them to the very end of overtime in that matchup, but just falling short by that single round. Now, a matchup that they should assuredly, just looking at things on paper, be able to close out for themselves and give them those 3 solid points that they will so desperately want for themselves at this point, given the outright loss they sustained. 0 points coming from that matchup versus PB, and then even against Space Station, only able to get the 1 point so far. They're sitting pretty low on the overall standings, so going to be wanting to try and capitalize here, make sure they get some points started for the week as they get themselves prepped for their match tomorrow, as well as they want to be conquesting onwards for a spot at the November Major.
Yes, indeed. And as Super's been stating all day, it really comes down to this second week, especially for some of our teams that are starting off 0-2. They have got to get their shoulder to the grindstone and start collecting some of these points. Fortunately enough for Astralis, they already got the hard work done today. It'll just be tomorrow to see if they can continue to snowball for the rest of Stage 3. As for Oxygen, though, it sits right in front of them. What does the future hold? Well, it starts with Mirage, and if they can potentially take this Theme Park off of OXG.
Just waiting on a few more of the players from Mirage to join up into the server, folks. Like we said, we were working on a quick tech issue. I think one of the computers or something was having a small issue, but I believe we are pretty close to having that fixed. I know we've got everybody from Oxygen in the server. We're just waiting on the rest of Mirage to join up, folks. And then we should be good to get things started here. Mirage looking to finally lock in their legacy on Stage 3 here, and especially so if they can get a 3rd consecutive win on this map as well. Doubt anyone's really going to be wanting to test them too heavily past that point if they can lock in the consecutive 3-0 victory here, but obviously we'll have to wait and see what the rest of the season holds for Mirage after this matchup as well. They've already been able to surprise quite a few, and it's really been a stage of surprises for quite a few of us. You can tell by kind of our prediction percentages there if you've been seeing that. I think I'm actually winning somehow right now. Looking at that, if I was checking the stats correctly, I think, and I'm only at 50%, so like I'm not trying to brag here. Like I'm still doing pretty bad myself. But
You're doing quite well, and also second thing, Mirage did end up losing to TSM on Theme Park, so they're 1-1 as of right now.
My bad.
But just to put that out there, TSM, no slouch. Even with the 2 new rookies, then they're still looking like quite the team. So, you know, Stage 3, it has made some amazing storylines. I think especially for the majority of us here in NA, we didn't expect this massive shakeup coming into this last stage. It seemed like some teams really wanted to try and stick it out, but then all of a sudden we have 7 teams change up players. And not only that, but after the first week, we had an 8th with Dark Zero and Skies.
Yep, absolutely the case. So I think continuing to evolve here at the NAL, and like we said, it was a bit of a surprise, but it makes sense given the recent results that we had for the region overall at the major. Not the most promising of results coming out of that one. I believe XSET made it the furthest, getting that like 3rd, 4th place finish, if I recall the results from Berlin correctly, but that's the best we got out of the North American region. Aside from that, pretty much all teams getting knocked out in the group stage there, so a few teams looking to shake things up now as they try to earn a spot at the next one and look to improve that record.
Yes, indeed. And just looking down the lines here, both of these squads, Mirage getting their last player in, so we should be launching soon. But this is an interesting thing I noted while we were flipping back and forth. I think Vertical, out of all of these guys, has the most plain Jane setup for his M&K. He's got like a Corsair K65 and like I think some random Zowie mouth. I think he's got like an EC2B or something like that, which again, like everybody else on these super lights and these final mouses, and this man's just going back to bare bones CS play. He's like, I got a Corsair keyboard and we're just gonna get some random mouse pad and I'm gonna play tape to a ceiling. I don't really know, but for Vertical, it'll work for him, which means it's working for us. Oxygen versus Mirage. It's on the docket. It's the last game of the day as Oxygen try to improve to 1-2.
Not going to get immediately chucked out as our first ban for Mirage. They waste no time locking that one in, so we'll see what Oxygen wants to remove from the pool. Knock obviously having plenty of play capability on this map just due to the ways she has to access the interior of the building and how heavily this game relies on a roam play, which would leave quite a few defenders off on their own and susceptible to being picked off by that operator. Just generally a good pick overall, especially in our last stage, but not going to be the case now. Should be banned up pretty quickly. Twitch will follow that one up. That's going to be the more interesting one, of course, but does make sense considering the amount of Twitch play we've been seeing here on Theme Park. Makes perfect sense to remove that comfort pick from Oxygen.
It also makes quite a bit of sense when you look at Dexter from the Astralis game, see that he's 3-0, and what's his most used offender? Twitch. There you go. We're tracking it. We're keeping track of these stories throughout the game, and it's going to be quite the ban from Oxygen. Going to remove the F2 from play. Also, Valkyrie, so won't have those cameras to set up around the building. Azami going to follow suit as well, as she is quite potent on a map like Theme Park, where she can add even more to the setup that forces the offenders to try and clear through, or at least get some hard-fought information on the position of these defenders. But now we're into the very first round here, and Oxygen will be on the offensive side to start things.
We'll see what Oxygen is going to be able to pull off here on that offensive-sided start for the Mirage roster as well. We are going to see quite a few interesting picks for them to go back into the roam. Very, very heavily prioritizing, trying to make sure that they are not going to allow Oxygen to get in unnoticed more than anything else, as we're going to have the Capcat traps deployed by Benji, the Frost Mats coming out from Kento, and alongside that even as well, we'll have the cameras from Oheze, and then Dexter even bringing in the goo mines for Legion. So this is a trap operator abounds on the defensive side here, looking really to trip up that clearing process from Oxygen and provide all the intel back over to the defensive side.
This is going to make it to where the building overall will be so annoying to try and work around, especially with these EDDs partnered with the goo mines of Dexter. I love the decision to bring the Legion along for the ride. He's always a good gap filler. Love the Frost Mats as well. Very creative positioning here from Kento, but those are the Frost Mats that always catch you off guard. I don't know if you guys saw Rexon's tweet from earlier on, but that random Frost Mat that we had on Clubhouse in the Sonics game earlier, he really said to his teammates, I'm just going to put the most random damn thing on the ground, and it ended up paying off. So you never know when those Frost Mats are going to nip at somebody's heels. But speaking of nipping at the heels, Newers has already worked his way in here for maintenance, but it's going to be Mohesse to take him down as he's managing the Dragon Door, and Newers is not aware.
Could start things for Mirage here as they get the clean pick off onto Newers, removes the extra intel that would come in from the Gemini clones as well, so that will be negated out. Remaining 4 other members of Oxygen here now having to try and make up the difference. Getting some aggression going on to Kento as he still has that very forward position against the Dragon wall due to the deployable shield, but still cannot sit there forever. Doesn't want to throw away the 5v4 advantage that their team has in an ego fight, so ends up falling back deeper into cash. Will now wait for the rest of the challenge to come in from Oxygen.
The big thing is for Kento is that he's already gotten the first blood, but now he needs to delay. Slowly work his way back and see if he can try and be a thorn in Oxygen's side later, but they're going to circumnavigate this and instead go right for the site. Mohesse, though, he's got an Alda and he's got 2 kills. Somebody help this man with the Dragon Door. My God, Oxygen will get 2, but they're also going to fall as well. It's a 3v2 in favor of the the defense, but I mean, Mohese, he's got to be just waiting for somebody to try and assist him in that situation. Fortunately enough, Mirage will get through the thick of it, but now Oxygen, specifically Dream, will be able to shore things up. It's a 2-2 going in the last minute.
Kento going to get red as he tries to make that wrap, so he goes down, and as you said, equalizes out the player count. Benji waiting for a bit of an overextension to come in towards the breach, whether it's going to be Dream or Sweater. Dream will more than likely give him the challenge, but also realize that he's been revealed, knows that he won't be obscure here, meaning he's going to be extra cautious in the way he creeps around these corners. His opponents might be at a negative in the engagement as a result of that extra caution that he'll be deploying towards, but regardless, they move in together. No action from the double doors peak just yet. The same can be said from the Arsenal deeper inside here. Going to try to play it together. Sweater has the overwatch for it, but it's a passive hold here. Potential for the sneak to come in, and there we go. Nitro takes out the planter, but the plant is still good. Leaves Sweater alone inside of a 1v2 as Melted tries to eclipse him out and knock him down. Won't be able to find him there on that peak, and now an opportunity shown. The head just popping up for a second. It gets him off the counter defuse. Won't be stuck here by Melted. Sweater will find an opportunity to peek, but now the throne's in the way. Doesn't get the kill against Benji either, so Melted is going to stick it and lock in the round for Mirage.
Very well done from Mirage. Oxygen, a very bullheaded move as they force their way into the site, get it down to a 2 versus 2. But I mean, we gotta talk about Mohese inside of this. This initial kill onto Newers, following through with not only managing the hard breach, but also the Dragon Door. He got away with so much there, and finally Foxe is able to at least stifle it for a moment. They'll get the breach open, but obviously knocking it down into the 2 versus 2. Sweater at low HP and Dream forced into a plant position. He'll die to that Nitro cell, leaving Sweater practically on an island. It's really difficult to try and take any fight with, any gusto when you're on such low HP. Any bullet is the difference maker in between you winning and losing that round, and Mirage were able to get things done, at least for the very first one.
So repicks are coming in for Oxygen. They did not expect to go over towards the site more likely, so they're going to want a few change-ups coming into it. So we just need those stylistically overall. We are actually going to see the Thatcher come out for Vertical here, so this will be fun to see how they're going to try and use this to get themselves into the site. So we've been seeing a lot of teams, of course, just rely on that new secondary EMP utility to get the job done, but it seems like Oxygen are going to head back to the old reliable. Use the big boys here to try to get themselves a bit deeper into the site. Sweater will also, of note, switch over towards a Finka too. Obviously, Finka has dropped off the map quite a bit with the removal of her nade. The utility can still be quite useful for a bit of a crazy fight environment there, and that's what Oxygen, I think, is going to get prepared to have. If they could potentially get one of those Renal Surges to get a clutch res off if the need should arise.
Indeed, still have the full breadth of the Adrenal Surges, still have a Spear with 3 stuns, and you still have a Gone 6. So it's not like Finka's dead to the world. She's just not played 100% of the time, which is a great thing. I think we're all done with that op at least for a little while, but Oxygen are going to bring her back into the fold to assist with some of these engagements that we've had across the board here. Speaking of engagements, Benji's going to be taking one here on the arcade balcony, seeing the rope go back and forth. A grenade more than likely on its way. But Foxe, it doesn't work out for him. He heard the pin get pulled, and he's going to play the other angle instead. That's going to be the sledge. Now off, and Benji and the rest of Mirage will continue to await Oxygen as they try and manage themselves around these windows.
Rest of Oxygen taking a very big step back here now. Absolutely zero regression coming out across the map for the most part here. Just trying to play a very analytical role. It's going to mean that plenty of time bank will be wasted away. Mirage will be very happy to see this happening here now due to the elimination of Foxe and the lack of a follow-up that's now come in for the rest of the Oxygen roster. Past that, 2 of the EMPs actually going to come out from Vertical there. Sitting out directly above Melton's position. Not going to be affecting him, though. Of course, gets rid of the crosshair, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue for players of this caliber. Benji, as well as Mohese, just fragging out here now. Oxygen failed to succeed in any of their pushes so far, and it seems like that's really just going to be the story of this entire round. It's fallen all to Dream. Dream has no safe access path to the building, and he won't even find one. Kento goes for a swing, and he hits it, knocking him down, giving a flawless round to Mirage on number 2.
This is not looking too solid for Oxygen, at least through these 2 first rounds, especially that second one. We see a lot of solo dolo play going on there. I think we did have that supporting entry kind of play going on between Sweater and Vertical over on the east side of the map. And actually, no, Sweater actually ends up getting gunned down on Arcade, trying to just come up the stairwell and provide a counter angle, but Mirage are ready for that. I do believe it was Vertical and another player that are over there in waiting room, and I'm honestly giving them the benefit of the doubt because I would would assume that they're playing around those areas at least close to a teammate. If they're all kind of off on their own island just trying to wrap around the site, you're just asking for problems to, rear their ugly head. And that's what we're seeing as of right now. I will say Oxygen had quite the team play, at least in that initial round where we saw them, pull the trigger very quickly and try and work their way towards site. And I'm hoping to see more of that throughout the remainder of this offensive side.
All right, well, let's take a look and see if Mirage can keep things nice, even and consistent here. Or for Oxygen, how exactly they're going to try to make up the difference. The Thatcher, clearly not the winning strategy, as Vertical's immediately going to repick that out here. Back over to the more consistent pick of the Zoth we've been seeing out of this team. Away from that, though, most of the picks that we had locked in for the drone phase itself are going to stay alive. That means for Hard Breach, we're not really going to have a whole lot in terms of direct nature to knock that out, but thankfully Dream will still have 2 of the can openers. So in the event they absolutely have to use Hard Breach, which to be fair for this site attack, you don't necessarily need it, they do have that option.
Absolutely. You practically don't need Hard Breach at all. There might be like a wall that you want to get or something like that, but nothing too much. Benji's actually going to get taken down from Newers. I do believe that was over on the Dragon side. Newers already inside of Throne as well. Nice little move here for him, as he knows that a lot of rotations are probably built up around this area, and he'd be correct in assuming so. We see a lot of teams try and have some hefty influence, at least defensively, on this basement setup, specifically in the area that we see Newers right now. It's a nice area for some of the upstairs setup to try and rotate back to, but now Newers is inside of the space and be occupying it for the time being. Mohesi's going to have to make some new angles to make sure that nobody can hop inside of storage without him knowing, as Oxygen not only have the initial pick, but also a pretty solid info game as to how Mirage currently have things set up.
Sweater ready to make a move forward on the inside of Cafe, but it'll have some resistance to the other side. The real story, yeah, is down here in the actual site, Vertical, just walking right in. Where's the resistance? Where's the defense? It's not here. That's the answer. Maese's gone down. The plant already halfway through as well. They'll be able to lock that one in. Kento will be able to grab Newers, but Dexter nearly gives himself away by swinging open the wall with a quick unload from the Bailiff here. Mirage now trying to set themselves up for a quick retake, but Oxygen's positioning might be too strong to facilitate it. As they move in, though, Kento and Melted knock out 2. OXG get greedy, trying to take more control outside of their immediate plant zone. They pay the price for it, as it's now brought down to just Sweater and Foxay.
Sweater's going to try and creep in from yellow stairs. Don't know if we have anybody managing this. Melted almost with a nice shot, but Foxay will knock it down to just the lone soul of Mirage. Kento knows he has players on both ends, but very minimal time. More than likely dead in a moment's notice, and it will be Foxay to deliver that. Oxygen get their very first round completely going around the setup of Mirage on the top floor, and instead hopping right into the site, taking the fight to the heart of the defensive setup and winning it out outright as Mirage try and rotate back in.
Just great intel play coming in from the players on Oxygen overall to realize that the site itself would have been that weak. So nicely done to sneak right in there. Vertical, of course, getting the opening entry for the team and following it through. Things get a little crazy after that. Like we said, Oxygen didn't have a whole lot of map control to play with there. Just really the immediate plant area. Tried to extend beyond that, but that's where Mirage was patient, waited to try and shut things down, and they nearly get it done as well. But thankfully, that exterior window position from the last player alive on Oxygen is able to net themselves the victory, so they come back into it now at a 1-2 scoreline.
Yes, indeed, and that's going to complete our site triangle here as we move into round 4. Mirage will work their way back into Armory and Throne, the most defensible site on the entirety of Theme Park, and they're back to their trap setup that we saw inside of round 1. I don't think we're going to see the same aggression that we saw from Oxygen, but more than likely specifically Newers, as he really went fishing inside a Dragon and he ended up finding the barrel of an LMG. So we'll see how they want to try and work the map, at least for the opener.
Oh, big run out from Dexter here as he tries to go for a pre-fire. And to be fair to him, it's not that far off. He nearly gets the lineup against one of the players from Oxygen. I think he actually might have snuck off a bullet or 2 on the Sweater there, in fact, but just unable to finish the job off. Either way, once again, it'll put that fear into Oxygen, make them play a little bit more slowly than maybe they want to, and if that ends up happening, there we go.
Guys,
I don't even know what the angle was for this. I'm going to assume
the door.
all the way through. There was such a slim margin for that shot to be made as well. You can see there's a little half wall that cuts it off right there. Benji moves up. He's like, oh, I guess someone died here. Okay. Kento now taking out Vertical as well. Oxygen just cannot find a footing to get themselves into the building.
Into the budding.
Yeah.
Very budding situation for Mirage, I would say. But yeah, these two initial kills, this is what I've been kind of talking about with Oxygen. You see how they're like on like two completely polar opposites of the map and the way that they're trying to interact with this team right now. There's really no way that Oxygen are able to try and capitalize off of one of their teammates dying. And that's the big problem, is you lead to situations like this. Yes, they might be able to get some really big kills and potentially stop, Mirage on their roam game, but what happens when they just outright die? You have no refrag potential or anything of the sort. Now you're down utility. Mirage are still in good straits. They have all the map control they had previously, and now they just have to try and force Oxygen into taking the site instead. Mohese, he's been a demon when it comes to this site setup, especially with the Alda, looking for more here, bouncing back and forth. He'll find himself a Foxe and a Dream. It's a triple kill here. The Dream could go one step further if he's able to get a quad onto Sweater. You usually don't get that much action as a anchor player, but instead it'll be Kento and a flawless round for Mirage.
Beautiful stance from Mirage. Once again, from Mohese as well. Something needs to be done. It goes without saying, but something needs to be done about this Alda position on the inside of Throne. Oxygen just cannot work their way past it. And that's on top of the earlier issue just with establishing, in-map positioning as well. Couldn't even get themselves across the window or door threshold without having to fight someone for it. That's going to facilitate why we now see a very early tack timeout coming in from Oxygen to try and fix this.
Yeah, early aggression there from Mirage, set up by Dexter. He gets those two tags onto Sweater. And Oxygen try and keep it slow rolling. They set up two of their more aggressive players on both sides of the map to try and work their way in towards site and catch some of those stragglers roaming around. But the shoe's on the complete opposite foot. I don't know what the exact comms there were for Newer's position inside of bathroom, but either way, stellar from Mirage and specifically Mohese, like threading the needle through that bathroom setup there to be able to find the head of Newer's. And then obviously Frost is able to double down on top of that, making the situation nigh impossible for Oxygen unless they're able to have some very considerable advantage practically gifted over to them on their site execution, because Mohese is not letting this go easily.
All right, well, let's get ourselves back into the action now as we're going to make another return upstairs into the dorms, and we'll see if this will yield results yet again for the Mirage roster, or if Oxygen can try to keep things a bit closer here at a 3-2 scoreline within just one round for each, and potentially tying us up if we see that 3-3 come to fruition in halftime. It's going to be tough to do for Oxygen, though, as this has very much been a Mirage-leaning game so far. No reason to expect a huge departure from that as well. Interesting pick coming in specifically from Benji there, as he's going to opt towards the Warden this time alongside. Still a fairly trap-heavy lineup, as well as mitigation coming in from Momai, of course. And then we have Mohese playing the Warrior inside of the site, should he need to be called up to it on the smoke.
All right, so Mirage, solid defenses so far, especially from our smoke player. 6-2 right now from Mohese, and we'll see if he can continue this. Mirage up on 2 rounds, especially against Oxygen, of all teams, the best theme park players that we have in the entirety of the NAL, getting schooled on their own map as of right now. A little early to call this, but we'll have to see if this can continue on. Oh, he's looking for one, and Newer's aware that he's inside a bathroom as well. Has Omidis close, though, to try and keep things slowed up. Newer's having a couple of different people trying to influence him here inside of Cash, but not able to get the deed done just yet as he continues to try and search for this first blood.
They end up moving back with the late reinforcement going on to office as well. Feels like things are about to get hot in here, so back it away just to cool off the situation a little bit, and that'll be, for the most part, a correct call. Kento will actually lose a lot of HP trying to move himself through that initiation cross as well. Goes down to about 5 or 10 HP, and he's going to have to call himself a much more passive player throughout the rest of this round. Aside from that, though, no success at Oxygen aside from map control. They've been able to move themselves all the way up to the office and initiation line. They've got to get past this now, and this is where the issues may start to pop up. This is where the resistance is also going to start to pop in from the Mirage roster. Already seen a little bit of that now as Newers comes to at least 1 or 2 shots. But again, credit to Oxygen. They are holding this back. They are stemming the tide, and more important, they're dealing damage to the members of Mirage that try to pop out and challenge their push. Dexter is going to end up being the first to fall, and of course, looking at the right side, you can already see Kento, Benji, and Mohese Hesse have taken massive amounts of damage by trying to slow down OXG.
Well, last game on Theme Park, it was the Dexter and Benji Moolah train, but now the entirety of Mirage has stepped up to the plate. It's allowed Dexter to slow down a bit, but they've gotten so much done through these rounds thus far. We'll see if down a man, they can try and get some more. Frag grenade out from Newers, and actually is going to collect Mohis. So now they have the big lead here, 5-3 in favor of Oxygen, but the timer dwindling.
Melted patiently waiting here inside of Cafe. This is the one part of the execute that Oxygen have not been able to piece together just yet due to this position being maintained deeper into Cafe itself, and might be actually slowing down the rest of the play. Also, you can see a shift going to be made by the player on the outside. It will be Foxe trying to hop himself in through Arcade as well, but that frees up Melted. He's able to go 1-for-1 against Newers. Still good enough for OXG in this case, though, as they bring the overall count down to a 4v2. They find an opening, or at least that's what it appears to be. Benji, though, will pay the price for it as he goes down. Kento tries surprise from the inside of the site and nearly gets away with it, but never mind. It'll be shut out instead by Oxygen as they keep things within 1 round's reach, heading to the final round of the half.
Well, Oxygen get yet another over on Mirage. Slow and steady, especially after the pick that Newers was able to procure. So hopefully able to equalize here going into this next round. But with Bunk Daycare on the line for Mirage, it could be pretty hard fought for OXG. We'll have to see how Mirage want to try and switch things up, as they obviously just defended this site. We saw some long angles being abused over towards the east side of the map, but that really didn't matter for Oxygen as they got those big initial picks, used the drones to try and clear some more stuff out for themselves, especially over towards Cafe, forcing the hand of Mirage and flushing out a lot of these hard-to-reach players, finally able to get a beat on them and gun them down as well. So Mirage not able to get the right foot forward initially, and really I think that's what got in their way, as they've done such a bang-up job of being able to play with an advantage.
So Mirage looking to secure things with one final hold. Back to the very same site we just saw on the previous round, feeling that they can have better results, maybe cooling off their aggression a little bit, or finding better success in stemming the tide on Dragon's push, which is where we saw Oxygen, of course, be able to slowly creep forward, take all that map control away from the Mirage roster, and eventually work their way into the site itself. Lion going to come back into it first. Sweater having that extra intel for the Oxygen side of things and making it a bit more difficult for Mirage to push in against them and stem the tide. We'll see how this utility is used in a moment, as Oxygen will be getting themselves ready to make that same push from Dragon.
Yes, indeed. Should be a full lockdown onto
Benji.
Mirage's setup. Yeah, Benji's going to go down here in a position where we saw him able to take it to Fox A prior inside of Arcade Balcony, but now he's going to be down to 20 HP here. A bullet's worth for Benji as Warden. Not necessarily something you want to see, as he's usually that forward operator that really likes to get into the nitty-gritty and take some of these gunfights, able to work his way through flashes and anything of the sort. Oh, almost a beautiful shot there from Newers. Very prepared for that angle through waiting, but not able to secure anything just yet.
I say, just going to try and reinforce things a little bit as he's brought an uncommon operator to the fold, at least as far as Theme Park is concerned. The Bandit blocking off access to those office walls, where Oxygen was able to get a little bit of a pinch going against the main hall setup. Able a little bit more extra aggression from the Mirage defense. This is definitely how they want to play this defensive side here, and more specifically how they want to play this site in the faces of Oxygen, constantly making them second guess every single move, and hopefully through that they will eventually run out of time and make the ultimate mistake of stepping into the setup from Mirage itself. But I say, still using those Bandit batteries to try and give himself a position a little bit more forward here. Now that he's spotted up by a drone, has to double back on it though, as that hatch is ultimately not going to be anything he can directly counter out, and does have to watch out for that.
Well, Sweater still has one EE, one DE, and that's more than likely going to assist Oxygen in a forced execution here momentarily. You can see they got some window repels already for themselves as they await the assistance from the other Oxygen members to try and push themselves across this halfway point of the map. The reinforcements and everything else in between built up to try and stop Oxygen from crossing this seam. Noors is going to take down Dexter. That's going to be the kitchen player here. Another one goes down. The frag grenade finds Benji. Mirage, they've still got a consistent cross, but they really need to decimate this offense right off rip here. They've got one inside a break. They know that they can try and influence Arcade Balcony. Mohese, some incredible shots, but not able to make anything land. The plant's going to go through from Dream. Kento can't stop it. Oxygen, they've at least gotten knocked down to 3, so it'll equalize itself before we throw ourselves into the post plant, but Oxygen are making it look way too damn easy. They will smoke Mirage after they get that plant down, and Oxygen will tie things up 3-3.
Nicely done from Oxygen, turning that very tense situation around through the control. They're able to get through the uneasiness coming in from Mirage. You could see that players like Dexter are just not able to justify a push forward from their bunker position, so they held back, let the members of OXG take more and more control, and through that, unfortunately, the situation flipped. While it was originally Mirage having the kill shot against Oxygen, the ability to shut them down with coordination, by the time that situation was over and the case was down on the ground, it was reversed. Now it was Oxygen fully set up to fend off any attempt to retake that site.
Absolutely. You know, Oxygen really able to fix up that offense there. Things kind of looking bleak initially, especially with Mirage quickly going up 2 rounds, but Oxygen keep an even head and are able to at least keep things equal going into the half. And now over to the defensive end, which is arguably the easier side here. So we'll see how Oxygen will fare. But as for Mirage, I still think there's quite a few positives that you can talk about. Their defensive setups overall looking quite solid. Love the aggressive plays, but obviously Oxygen able to figure out exactly how they needed to operate around that later on into the offensive side, where they were playing more of a team-centric setup and then just having that one lone soul to try to be like the counter angle to assist them. Especially on that last setup, you can see it extremely well. They get caught up in like waiting and initiation, and then they are waiting, just seeing to see if they can get their sledge over on those windows and have some influence on the back line of Mirage. So very well done from Oxygen, but obviously all that's going to be thrown out the window now as we've switched sides here. Mirage will be acting on the offense for the very first time.
So Mirage now on the attacking side. The situation will be flipped. And it'll be up to the players on OXG to try and stem the tide, try and wait out this timer, and keep Mirage outside of the building. Won't be able to accomplish that too much over here towards control. It's looking like the players on Mirage are going to be able to take fairly quick control in that department. And in general, this is one of the sites where we're going to see Mirage get that early access for themselves a little bit earlier on, since Oxygen will be relying on the bunker setup they have inside a little bit more so than the actual extension. With that said, though, of course, we are going to see some action going on the Gar hook used to get quick access to break. Newers definitely has an idea about this and is panicking to an extent, so ends up hopping over the balcony to get himself away from this very dangerous situation.
Yeah, one of the loudest utilities minus an explosion and the likes of the Gara hook. Benji will send himself flying in to break. Oxygen with an immediate response, but it's more of a response of recall than it is anything. Oxygen will waltz their way back towards site and give Mirage some control, some semblance of it across the map here. Gonna try and set things up so they can get the back of Armory open and have impacts in the hand of Dream, so be able to try and play prevention if that does end up going down. Now, there is more hard breach in the likes of Benji here with the secondary hard breach. Nitro cell out, but this should quickly be dealt with, at least for the hard breach sake here for the exothermic charge. It'll go down, a flash out, will get eaten up here, continuing to flash out. Does the second impact have anything to do with this? Dream will actually hightail it to the other end of Throne, and now there's a blown wall at the back end of the site.
First access point has been established. Foxy going for a bit of an edgy cross there as he moves in. Might have been able to sneak a bit of damage off onto Melted, but otherwise be able to find that early pick. What he might be able to do is get a nice shotgun pump going if he can time his swing correctly. Very much is not going to have to work too hard to find that timing. Indeed, the execute's coming in. Kento, though, he's got the skeleton key to respond to that M590. Probably a surprise to Foxy, but it gets the job done. Keeps the numbers even, and more so in the advantage of Mirage by +1. Make that +3 as Melton and Kento have picked up 2 more kills, seemingly out of nowhere. It's all down to Newers now, who's already found one of the 4 he needs. So you need to disrupt the plant going down. Unfortunately, we'll be unable to stop that. Benji picks up 1 final kill. And The first round of our second half will fall to Mirage.
Mirage keeping solid pace across the entirety of the map, getting the big kills onto these Oxygen members that were playing a little bit closer to site. But the big thing is freeing up the area around the site to have so much influence makes it to where those anchored players have to manage so much. I mean, you could just see it from our position there in behind Throne, having to bounce back between Breach and the Dragon Door and Split and then back to the Breach. And it's just so much for one person to manage, and Mirage can overwhelm them in that situation. That's exactly what we see out of MRG, especially near the tail end after they got those big frags onto the site setup of Oxygen and force the plant down. They're going to pull themselves ahead here, and Mirage showing just why they chose to go back to this map.
Indeed the case. Ability to bring themselves back from the brink, it seems, and even a desperate situation is second to none right now. So beautifully done, especially for a Throne attack too. Normally, when you're shut down, you have very limited options to make up the difference, but Mirage still are able to make things happen. Beautifully done for themselves to take the right foot forward and establish the lead coming into the second half. Now we have to wait to see if they can stick it. So they're going to need to transition, of course, onto a new site. Oxygen does not favor a retry down in Throne Room. It was way too one-sided, and I generally tend to agree with that, so we'll head over towards the dorms instead and see if that will make up a better defense here. Noors definitely wants to go for this peak, hoping to line up a repel timing, and he gets it. Ace on, nicely done. Mohese won't even know what hit him, as Noors gets the second one as well. Kento also gonna get caught repelling up directly into the crosshairs of Noors to set this up for a 5v3 before he even crossed the 30-second mark.
Fantastic from Oxygen, setting pace so early into the round and already able to take so much away from Mirage. It'd be a Christmas miracle if they were able to get this round after not only losing their hard breach, but also Buck. So much soft destruction out the window, you know, as well as a solid gun and stuns. They're asking for a lot here, but we'll see how they try and work around this. They have quite a bit of info utility in the back pocket still, with the likes of Doke and Lion still along for the ride. It's just, you know, working your way towards perfection to try and pick up a round like this.
All about the follow through now from Oxygen. They've set themselves up for the win. Just have to make sure they don't miss a step and allow another member of Mirage to sneak through. They get a dangerous amount of control. The only one really able to do that at this point in the round is going to be Melted, of course. Checking out his POV now as he shifts past Break, just next to the initiation, as well as Office Cross. Trying to move up into the actual site itself, but not a whole lot of resistance coming in from Oxygen just yet. They're taking a very, very passive note as they have no real reason to show face and risk players here, given that massive lead they've already gotten. Bringing things down to the 5v3 off of Noors' earlier exploits. And due to that patience, we're going to see pretty much the follow-through we expected. Unfortunately, Melton not going to be able to contend too much. Dexter with a nice shot here, downs at least the one player hiding out behind Vending and reinforced behind those office walls. Foxtail will be the one to fall there, but so far, the only one to be knocked out. Dexter will be able to actually strike true on a second target. Dream more than likely peek into the left of our current player's POV here on Benji, but still, a lot more kills to be found, a lot more intel to be scrubbed out. It's only 45 seconds to make it happen. Sweater with a nice lock in there to take down Benji. Eliminates him, leaving only Dexter at the top of Yellow Stairs alive now.
Well, unfortunately enough, especially after that kill there, obviously, Benji just sitting on 2 EE1Ds. Didn't use a single one of those inside of that last engagement there, which is exactly the kind of utility that you would want if you had to make an aggressive play from a downward position like they did. You know, you want to try and force these members of Oxygen to make a decision on if they want to make an aggressive play and be found out. And speaking of aggressive play, is what a mechanically gifted player in the likes of Newer showcasing just how gifted he is inside of the opener there for round 8. Oxygen will tie things up 4-4 up against Mirage on Theme Park. Words I assume none of you thought I was going to say.
All right, well, let's see if Oxygen once again is going to be able to run their way around the map. They'll make the return back down into Throne Room now, with things a bit more successful on the upstairs defense, and hopefully them figuring out the issues that propped up back on round number 7. They're able to make up for things here. It'll be looking much more swimmingly for them, as they'll just have to follow through with the 2 additional rounds needed. And this map will be theirs, finally smiting down Mirage here.
10 seconds left.
Finally taking them out on a map that they have been very, very well inclined to play, but as we mentioned before, it reveals quite a bit of their strategy. Even so, though, Oxygen have been cut off by it, or caught off guard, I should say, by it quite a few times. It's been for a very interesting game so far as Mirage is still trying to look for that same number of rounds themselves. We go live with it though. Mirage is out on the board. An Oxygen roster that's going to be, once again, to no surprise, very active in their roam game across the map, wanting to try and waste as much time as possible so that they cannot focus on the clear into Throne Room itself.
Well, we'll see if they can get past Newers. This last round, obviously, he was the thorn in the side of Mirage for the early round. This time, looking to be that yet again. I do believe that's vertical there inside of Waiting Hall, seeing if anybody wants to try and pressure from Cash. But Newers, more than likely, lying in wait throughout the building. Currently 11 and 5. And yes, it will be vertical here, as he's trying to get aggressive around the metal panels here for Cash. Stuns in, and this usually means an aggressive play, but the second stun, what a play from Mirage. A perfectly positioned stun grenade will catch vertical, and he's flying blind as Melted hops in Dragon Window.
Let's start to things here for Mirage, being able to take down vertical, of course, but not the end of the world, and no overreaction coming in from Oxygen. Just a very slow crawl from Sweater to put himself at the tail end of Dragon Hallway here to maybe see if he can get lucky and catch a player off guard. Mirage not keen on making those mistakes at this stage, however. They're going to double drone that. That'll spot him out for a second time and force him back deeper into the site to wait things out.
Well, a minute and 30 seconds here. Mirage obviously with the man advantage, but they still have quite a bit to go. I believe that we have, actually we don't have impacts on, and Dexter, he's gonna kill Foxay. The mute out there about trying to find a Mirage member. I do believe he gets gunned down at the other end of the yellow stairwell. Drone gonna get discovered here. Nobody on it, but Newers has been found and he's dead to Dexter. Oxygen continue to gift one after another over to Mirage, and they're gonna do it again. Sweater goes down. Sweater, you're too late to the party, my friend. Everybody already drank all the soda. The pizza's gone. Just go home. Dream, it's all up to him. He's got one. Mirage, they're looking for the lead again. They don't have any more EE1Ds, but they got a lot of firepower to try and bear down on Dream's location. He'll work his way through split, trying to find any opener. He's got to be aggressive here, folks. If he just sits on site, he's a dead man walking, and they weren't ready for it. Dream! Oh, it's going to be a dream if he gets this round over on Mirage. Mohesse, he's going to start the plant. He's going to fake it out. He knows Dream's worked his way back into split. He had that audio cue, tries to get aggressive, and Mohesse gets it done. Mirage, 5-4.
Props to Dream for the attempt, of course. Very well played, given the circumstances that he was up against, and was able to nearly lock in a very, very close clutch. Only one away from bringing it down to a 1v1, and even there would have had a real chance to secure it. So Mirage, they take the round, but they're not necessarily going to be happy about it in the way that they're able to do so. Either way, though, consistency is being found on these thrown attacks. They're 2 for 2 so far, and Oxygen is going to be the one that's starting to worry in a big way. They'll now have to go to a tertiary site, one that's untested so far in this game. Already moved themselves upstairs, of course. They will be able to return to that on the next round. So if things go well here for Lab, they can still rally back, potentially get up to a 6-5 lead if they're able to repeat their success upstairs as well. But things have to start going right here. Otherwise, Mirage is on the warpath to a quick victory.
Oh, man, and what a weight on the shoulders of Oxygen as well. 0-2 to start. You're up against the statistically worst team out of the entire season of 2022 for the NAL. And not only that, you're losing to them currently on a map that they've went to for a third time in a row. Oxygen cannot let this slip through their fingers. There's a lot of weight on their shoulders right now, but they're going to have to work through it. And not only that, they've got to do it on the defensive end, where Mirage have been constantly decimating them when they aren't going for some of these cheekier picks initially. So what is the answer for Oxygen? It can't simply be Newers take some picks off some windows every time.
Yep, absolutely not the case. That's the only real thing that's led to victory so far for this team. How do they mark that consistency in the middle of the round? How do they consistently waste out the time from Mirage and make them second-guess their own strategies? They failed to find an answer to this so far in the 2 to 3 rounds that we've had played out on this side. And they're very quickly running out of time to find a proper answer. Hoppin', no respect to the setup. Kento goes right for the billiards play, and even better, they find a second pick, I believe, on the inside of bathrooms too. Melted knocks out Vertical with that one. Already, it's full site control, and even an extension past that for Kento here, as he's going all the way into Lab. Plant shouldn't be restricting him too much. They don't even need the plant. Mohesse, get off that. You don't even need it right now. Just frag it out. Chase Foxy around the map. Where's he going to go? He's got no map control left, as Mirage have shut down Oxygen on this round again.
I mean, he's got a couple of foxholes, but there's nowhere that Davide goes. It's a 1 versus 5 on such low time, and look at how distinguished Mirage are looking on this offense right now. Cool, calm, and collected, ladies and gentlemen. If you would have told me and just take the names away that this is Mirage playing offense right now, I would be at a loss for words. So very controlled. They're going to swing into Foxay here, at least right outside of Drug, but Benji delivers the killing blow immediately after. 2 rounds ahead of Oxygen here. And just to remind you, if Oxygen don't get any points inside of this game here, that is practically their major berth gone in day 3 of the NAL.
Not a way they would have wanted to start out the season, and that means, as you probably heard Super mentioning back on the desk as well, that they need to be pretty much perfect from this point forward, just to bounce off of Stokes' point. For certain, they're not out just yet, but they're going to be very, very close to that if things do not turn around here in the next round.
By the skin of their teeth.
Pretty much.
They're holding on by their fingernails, not even the tips. Like, you're asking for so much to happen throughout the league in order to allow you to even try and make it at that point. And I mean, when we reach that point, also, what is, or if we do reach that point, what is our talking point about this, obviously, right? Because, like, Laxing's the only thing that's been switched out of Auction. We put Sweater in, and now there's just nobody else home. Newer's the only person that we really see lighting up this scoreboard. Vertical, there's just like no light on upstairs currently. Nothing is working for them up against this Mirage unit.
There'd be more hope as well if this was still like the middle of the year. If we were sitting in stage 2, you could say like, all right, maybe this isn't their stage, you know, that sort of thing. I don't want to talk too presumptively as we are still only on Playday 3, but it's starting to look this
it's
way
hard
as a
though,
front,
right?
so we got to start bringing it up at the end of the day. But the fact that it's stage 3 and things are looking this bleak right now for Oxygen is not a good sign. For their sake, I really hope we start to see things begin to turn around, whether it's in this match or a later one here in this stage, because there's just, what, like months of emptiness between now and the start of the next stage for the NAL. So how is this team going to rebound between now and then? How are they going to improve if things continue to unfortunately end up on the worst end for themselves throughout the rest of this stage?
Yeah, I do believe, at least off the top of my head, Oxygen have the #1 player across the last 2 stages in the likes of Newers, and we're potentially starting off 0-3 here. I hope this is not the case for Oxygen, so we are into potentially the last round here. Mirage brought the Lion again, and Sweater dead to the world. The Bandit off the board, and it's at the hands of the Thermite.
Sweater falling down, the Bandit being eliminated as well. That'll more than likely mean that all of his utility dies with him unless he preset it for like the office walls or something like that. Again, a little bit of a sigh of relief for Oxygen and falling back to this site. This is the one that they were able to control previously, but starting out down 2 is not going to be the path to victory here. Already it's Mirage leading the charge again with full control as far as I can tell of the Dragon side of the building too. Foxay still positioned on the inside of the office as the one true obstacle remaining between them and the site now.
Kento, crucial shots here. Foxay's gonna miss some as well. They both go wide. The shotgun blast not even making its connection. Foxay falling back towards the office hatch. Obviously already lost Newers as well. This 5 versus 3 means so much to Oxygen at the current moment. Another EE1D out. It's Benji's last, but they still have 2 logic bombs as well to really throw a wrench into the plans of Oxygen. What a shot from Kento. Foxay, you're not even allowed a sliver if you want to peek at MRG. It's a 5-2 in favor of the offense. I literally cannot believe my eyes. Vertical, he's going to try and take some gunfights around the top of yellow, but Mirage know where his location is. He'll down the buck. He'll take out Kento, trying to stop Mirage and this plant. What a kill from Dexter with the DMR. Dream can't find it through the smoke. Mohese gets the plant, and Mirage, at least not yet, are looking to take this round, but yet again, the support player gets it done. Mirage, the greatest version of the Owl we have ever seen, takes Theme Park.
3rd consecutive play for this stage on this map. It'll give them a 2nd victory on it after they sustained 1 loss earlier last week to TSM. Bouncing back without missing a beat, though. These last few rounds, they absolutely shut down at every single opportunity. The resistance coming in from Oxygen. A very, very well-fought game and a very, very well-won game as Mirage is going to continue to ascend. Oxygen will be grasping for air here as they try to figure out just what the heck is going wrong in their first 3 games.
Absolute devastation coming out of Mirage up against Oxygen. I don't think this is a scoreline a lot of us thought we were going to see. 7-4. And you know, funny enough, before we even started this game, I jokingly said to the analysts as they were walking off, I was like, oh, we haven't had an overtime today, right? Like, we got to get that. And we at least got to a 4-4, but then Mirage kick it into maximum overdrive and blow past Oxygen. A fantastic theme park. And I don't know if we're going to see teams try and be as confident up against MRG on this map.
Definitely not the case. They'll be thinking twice about picking into it. As a remind you again, the team had already played it 2 times in a row last week. There would have been plenty of exposure. We had a team beating them as well. So there would have been plenty of tape on how exactly they could go about that, but just not able to wrestle it seems, here inside of this matchup today. Mirage still end up topping it out. And again, that entry power in the second half is really what seemed to lock it into here. Oxygen constantly trying to contest against it, but could just never really win any of those opening fights in the final few rounds, sealing their fate before any of their own strategy had truly been deployed.
Well, that about does it. Oxygen and Beast Coast currently sit at the very bottom of the league. Nobody able to get a win just yet. Oxygen, just as a reminder, a top 4 team throughout the entirety of 2022. And it looks like something very serious has happened to them. We'll have to see how the remaining weeks go, but you know, you got to remain hopeful.
All right, so for the two of us, that's going to do it for the day, ladies and gentlemen. We still got one final analysis test segment, though, so stick with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes with a breakdown of Mirage's victory.
I had to get one on Seth. Come on.
Make dollars, I don't make deals. I've been going hard in the paint, still blowing kush clouds till I can't feel like. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like. 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like. 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Can I got you feeling wavy? Way too early to be hazy. Start a 10 job cause you crazy. Yeah, you back in the game and you don't feel ashamed. Always want me at your party. Like me next to a Bacardi. Cause you know I'm spinning faster than a Harley. Yeah, you still in the game but you don't feel ashamed. You just close your eyes when you wish to be free. You look up to the sky and call on me. Let me put color in your sky, take away the gray. Turn the roof to a floor on a Saturday. Up your doll and tonight you do what I say. I'm just a getaway, I'm just your getaway. I'll make you warm if it's chilly and I probably make you say things you wouldn't do normally. I'm like a 9 to 5 job and you work for me. I'm your getaway, cause you can get away.
Well, there you have it. Mirage take the win over Oxygen, and we have none other than Dexter himself standing by over in Vegas to chat with us a little bit about that win. Congrats, Dexter, on the win there. Were you worried going into Oxygen at all? Like, what were you expecting coming into this one?
I mean, of course, we knew it was going to be a hard game. You know, Oxygen's a really good team.
Yeah.
But we've been prepared for this. I mean, we've just been practicing a lot. and just focusing on our mistakes, especially with the first game against TSM. We were just focusing literally on every little mistakes that we were making and making sure we improve for all the other games.
Dexter, it's back-to-back-to-back theme park for you guys so far to start the stage. And on top of that, you go theme park against OXG, who I'm sure you know had a very good record on this map ahead of time. Can you talk about the thought process on why you wanted to go here against such a strong theme park team, and then why you thought you were able to win the map?
I mean, to be completely honest, we weren't expecting to play theme, but they decided to ego trial us there. And we knew that theme was a really good map for us, and if it came down to, we were going to be able to play it. But we really weren't expecting to play. But I guess people can just keep ego trialing us on that map.
Hey Dexter, congrats on the win. Looking ahead a little bit to tomorrow, I know you play SSG. For those who don't know, you were going to be on their team, and they kind of last second decided to go with Yeti. Is that a game that you've had, maybe circled on the calendar a little bit? Does that one mean a little bit more to you?
I mean, of course. I mean, I love every single player on that team. Like I said before, I have nothing against any of them. But, of course, it's going to be a good game, I'm going to be hyped, and hopefully we can come out on top.
There were obviously a lot of questions surrounding what this team was going to look like before the stage even got going, but from what I was hearing, you were getting in the middle of things, trying to take initiative to fix the problems that you were seeing. Obviously, Mohesi has done a lot, even though both of you are just the brand new Challenge League call-ups. How are you finding that you're integrating with the whole process so far? I know you really wanted to talk last time you got a win, but we couldn't get you set up. So how does it feel after 3 games so far?
I mean, obviously there's still little mistakes that we need to work on fixing them. But the thing that I had in mind in this is basically kind of like exit, basically just having 5 players that are friends, and just be able to have fun playing the game. At the end of the day, if you're not having fun, you're not winning games. So basically, I just kind of did this I knew this could be a very competitive team, and it's shown to be proven.
I would say so, yeah. Handling Oxygen today, that's 2 wins already on the stage for Mirage. So congrats on the one today, and good luck against Space Station tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, there you have it. It was, Melter Skelter, the Kento Evento, Dexter Flexter. They wrecked Oxygen 7-4, and this Mirage team is off to a pretty hot start in stage 3.
I think what this does now is it puts them in 3rd place with the tiebreakers on round differential, which is the highest they've been since they finished in 3rd place back in stage 1 of last year, which is insane to think about the amount of progress that they've had so far. Kento had a great game. I think there were a couple times where I think it was like some weird flank decision making at times, but that kind of problem didn't seem like it cropped up very much. Mohesi was insane, especially on Maestro and a couple of throne rounds, and it very much feels like everyone on this team is dialed in on a level that exactly like Dexter was hoping when he jumped onto this team in the first place.
Yeah.
Dude, somebody's got to get Nours some help, man. He did basically everything that he could to try to win them this game. He started a little bit slow, had a couple open-in deaths to Mohesi on those first couple of rounds. But after the TAC timeout, he was so good on getting those opening picks. He was really good with the grenades. He finished out, I thought, a pretty strong second half as well, playing on the defense. But unfortunately, he just, he can't show up and carry the round every single time. And a lot of times, like if he is dying, if he is going in, there just wasn't that follow-up. So, I mean, if you want to take a silver lining away, I think Nours had a great game. Dream played okay, but like everybody else on OXG really did struggle this match.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm OXG, I just got to figure out what I'm doing. We touched on it before the game. I just don't understand what they're doing with Sweater. Why bring Sweater in to just play roles that he's never played? It goes against his strengths as a player, his aggressiveness. He just seems completely out of place. Honestly looks uncomfortable. And on the side of Mirage, I mean, they're looking very competitive. I assume at some point they're going to play a map besides Theme Park, and we'll see how they look then. But, that was a good win for them. And for OXG, they're now a third of the way through the season with 1 point. They only have 5 games left. If they win all 5 of those games in regulation, they're only going to have 16 points. You usually need 15, 16 to make the major. I mean, OXG maybe need to stop worrying about making majors and worrying about like what's going to work for their roster, because they do not look like the same team.
Yeah, I did a double check on the statistics specifically. No team in NAL history has ever qualified for a major after losing their first 3 games. There was a time where a team, after losing the first 3 games, did still get top 4, which was back when we didn't have a major, which was the very first stage of last year when SI got rearranged, and that was, you guessed it, Mirage. Lost their first 3 and then came roaring back. That was the time they had Hot and Cold on the team. That was the loading Knicks roster from way back in the day. No other team in NAL League history has ever managed to claw their way back after a 3-game loss. There have been times in other leagues, specifically G2, who lost their first 3 games of Stage 2 and still qualified for Berlin. So it's not to say that it's completely out of their hands, but oh my God, do they need to win everything and then have everyone else start losing if they actually want to qualify for November?
Yeah, and it seems like they've got a lot of work to do before they kind of figure out how to win, right? How do you put the puzzle pieces together? You know, Laxing maybe a bigger hole to fill than they thought they would have when they slotted Sweater into that. But for now, a victory for Mirage. We're going to take a look at a replay that kind of illustrates some of the unique stuff they were doing in some of these early rounds. We're going to take a look at round number 9 and Mirage's entry that really kind of set things off in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't seem like anything special, honestly. It's kind of just a single kill. But to me, this shows like just a capability from Mirage that I don't think we were seeing in the stages before. You see the mini play, you see the coordination. They're going to coordinate flashes to kill Vert. They find a solo player, and they're going to be able to just flash him and take him out. And honestly, it's just plays like that I don't think they were capable of before.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. When I talked to Mo over the weekend, one thing he said is that like old Mirage was like very basic, right? And what they wanted to do was like work on more enabling with the team, work on getting themselves more of those advantages. And so this is a great example of that, where they're able to use that utility to be able to get that first opening pick. And it it has
eventually it's coming up. We're on the edge of your seat. Just trust us. It's coming.
Yeah,
it's here. Oh,
There's the drone.
I see him in the corner. I see the flash. Oh, yeah. Teamwork, baby.
There it is. One for Melted to start that one off. And yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it doesn't seem like much, but it's a sign of good things from Mirage. It's something that definitely was lacking in the earlier stages.
Yeah, it's just coordination. It's as simple as that. If you can do things together, you can make plays like that. Take advantage of players by themselves. Take opportunities to make plays around the map. You win and lose games by making mini plays throughout the series, right? It's things that are unpredictable, things that people don't expect. Plays like that win you rounds. That's an opening kill that you spiral into a victory for the round.
Yep, that's right. And I mean, we looked at Dream and his kills on that stat sheet. And the thing is most of those came when he was the only person left alive for Oxygen as well.
He almost had that clutch, man. I was so pissed.
Exactly.
I really wanted him to get that ace.
So you force him in that situation, then even a player who is a very talented, lethal support player like Dream, there's only so much you can do. You can't 1v5 every single round, right? So Oxygen with a lot of work to do. Mirage gets it done again. Their second win in a row, I believe, which I think, is that the first time we've been able to say that? Did they get...
For a while. Maybe since Hot and Cold.
For a while.
It has to be since Hot and Cold, honestly. Maybe stage 3 of last year, they had a pretty decent run, so maybe around then.
It's been a little while, yeah.
It's just, for this year, it feels like, you're in the twilight zone. It's like, wait a minute, Mirage is like winning games, like, pinch me. Like, I
Supers
just don't know
and analysts? What's going on?
Yeah.
It's got to feel good for the guys on that team who've also been there for a while. The Melteds, the Benjis of the world who have seen this roster go through so many different iterations. Even though we still have 2/3 of the stage left to go, I think you can take a little mini moment of victory and looking at this. I know they can't quite yet for the rest of the week because they've still got a game coming up against Space Station tomorrow, which, like you mentioned, does still have the Dexter against Space Station like line against it. But still, this has to feel